So I received the coronavirus vaccine yesterday, and man, I'm feeling it today. I got a little bit of a fever and just aches and pains. So it's kind of a slow start getting out of the house. But yeah, I'm grateful I got it. I actually, for a moment there, they called me and said, yeah, you got an appointment today at 12:45. And I was apprehensive to go because I have a out-of-town production in a few weeks, out of state. I'm gonna drive there. And it's a week of work, basically covers all of our overhead for the month. You know, weeks of work pays for a month. So my concern was I have to go back for the second injection 20 days after the first, and they schedule your date and time when you do the first one. So I was afraid that was going to be while I was out of state, which would mean now I have to make the decision on whether or not I'm gonna take this job that pays for our next month of expenses, or do I, yeah, I had to choose one or the other. But anyway, it worked out, the timing's just right. I got like a couple of day buffer that I'll be back in time to get the second shot. All right, it's been a week. Feel good now. It's just one day that I was down, about 24 hours with a fever. I'm gonna work on refining the heating system a bit more in the back of the van. So here's the thermostat location on the partition. And then I routed the vent. It's just coming through the little access door at the bottom of the partition door. And then the vent directs the air kind of upward at a 45-degree angle towards the bed. Works great. Down to freezing. It's nice and warm in here. Keep it right at 20 degrees C, which is basically everything set to low. It just runs on low and ticks away. Got down below freezing in New Mexico one night, and I had it running on high the whole time. Burned about a half a tank of fuel, and it was still uncomfortably cold. So I am going to insulate the roof and probably just the walls around the perimeter of the bed. So I'll do the entire ceiling and then just the side area here, basically the back half of the van, the rear doors, and the head side. The stock diesel tank for the heater is too big to mount under the van or in the engine compartment. So for that 1 week on the road, I just put it in the wheel well passenger door. I had to remove the little cargo holder off the door. And then fortunately there's an existing access port. It had a rubber grommet to get into the wheel well from outside, underside. So I didn't have to drill any holes for this temporary setup. This worked great, except when the cab heats up in the sun, the fuel expands and the vent is here in the cab. So you get some diesel fumes in the cab. But at night when it's cold, there's no fumes. And then I'll show you here behind the passenger seat is where I installed the heater. Fits in there quite nicely. So I'd like to route the vent through the partition so it's a permanent install and maybe up higher. But as you can see here, the passenger seat and then my tool chest on the other side really limit options for where I can locate the vent. So I'm thinking if it'll fit with the holes I drilled through the floor, I'm gonna 180 the heater so that the heat side is on the outboard side, passenger side. Basically just, yeah, 180 it. So that would allow me to run the duct up here behind the seat belt. There's plenty of room. And then maybe, I can drill a hole here and blow the hot air into the backside above the tool chest. I don't know, it's just a thought. For now, it's working just fine in this temporary setup through the access door. So here's my project for today. I purchased a TIG welder because my little MIG machine really can't handle aluminum. It's just too difficult. So I bought a proper AC TIG unit and I fabricated my first aluminum project. Did an okay job. I mean, the beads are not beautiful. It's actually a little too hot, but it certainly got the metal bonded. And that's 1/8 inch, the vertical piece, and then it's 16th inch, which is super thin on this L channel. And you can see here, I blew several holes through it. I just got it too hot. Welding two different thicknesses was well beyond my beginner level skills. You can see here, that was the end of the weld as I was throttling back on the torch to let things cool. That's when the hole punched through. So I literally got to the very end, and of course the one I screwed up the most is front facing. But this is the diesel tank. So this is a diesel tank. It came with the fuel tap already installed. You know, ideally I would have liked to have had the fill cap on the front side here, but the fuel output I want on the back side because I don't have clearance here, and I'm worried to get pinched with the prop for the hood. So anyway, gotta have the tank installed. You know, slightly less than ideal, but at the fuel station I'll have no problem getting a diesel pump in there. I realized with the new tank and the long fuel run, there's no valve anywhere to stop the fuel flow if I have a leak or if I need to remove the tank to work on the engine. So I ordered this motorcycle fuel petcock, and I'm going to install this at the tank. Okay, here's the petcock and fuel pump. This side will eventually get bolted to the firewall. All right, I'm pulling gear and loading the truck for a project on the road. This is scheduled 3 times. Looks like it's finally gonna happen. 1 week shoot in Bentonville, Arkansas. I won't be able to document any of the behind the scenes on set. It's all NDA, locked away in secrecy. But I got this back, if you remember in an earlier video. I was in LA on October 1st, and I dropped this off at Able Cine for service. It had a fan 1 error. Ultimately, it went to Able after a month. Determined it needed to go back to Arri to be troubleshot. They had it, I got it back in early February. I mean, it took, this camera, you've heard me rant about it before, but this camera essentially spent all of 2020 tied up in service. I couldn't get it back, just stuck in the queue because of lockdowns and other craziness. The first time I sent it in, it was just for a tune-up. I didn't have any pressing issues. The little level on the back, which was covered with Velcro all the time, was broken. They replaced that. I had the sensor calibrated and cleaned. I think that was it. There were no pressing issues. It was just overdue for service. Anyway, cost me an entire year for not having the camera. Well, anyway, it's back, and we're going to use it next week. So I got that headed up. I'm going to shoot 17 to 120, and then we're also going to run a second camera. Normally I would do this with 2 Amiras, but my other Amira package is working in Los Angeles next week, and I can match these close enough for what they're doing. This is going to be tight ISO close-ups of things, and this is going to be our primary A camera. And they intercut just fine in that context with what we're doing. I've done it before many times with success. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about how I prep gear that I own. You know, normally if you're renting something from a rental house, the camera assistant or somebody would go to the rental house, build all of the components. So in this case, you know, fluid head, camera, lenses, batteries, check all your cards, wireless transmitters, matte box, follow focus, whatever the peripherals are, you want to build it all, make sure it all connects and you're not missing any adapters, bolts, or special tools you may need. When you own the gear, you don't have to be quite as diligent, because in most cases I'm the last person to pack the case, so I make sure everything goes back in there when I'm done. Years ago when I was doing bigger shoots with bigger crews and I had assistants and I didn't really have to touch the gear on set, I had laminated photo inventory cards, a picture of every item in the case with a text list, so that, and a photo of it cased where everything lands in the case. So that way, whoever my assistant is for the day, I just would check with them. Did you double check the card when you packed? Everything's there, nothing's missing, nothing's broken. Then I wouldn't have to go through it all when I got back to the shop. And that worked well. I've gotten kind of lax about that in the last couple of years because I've been doing smaller shoots and I'm just the one touching the gear. So in that case, you know, it'd be wise for me to obviously redo those cards. I haven't fallen behind. But what I do is if I'm not doing a checklist, which is something I also heavily recommend, I'll just do like a mental rundown, and I always start at the bottom. Like, okay, start at the ground. I have my spreader, I got my sticks, I got my fluid head, I have the necessary mounting plates, camera body, and I start at the back of the camera. I've got my batteries, charger, AC power. I need media. I have my media. Does that mean I have a card reader and a backup card reader? Cards, card readers, cables, power supplies in the case. I've got the shoulder pad and the VCT14 plate for the shoulder pad, although we're going to be running on the mini jib, so I'm not planning on using any of that. And then if it's a rental lens, you typically want to mount it up, check back focus. And if it's a cinema style lens with calibrated focus marks, you want to use a chart and a tape measure and visually verify everything is to spec, check for dust, all of that. I'm not a camera assistant. I'm sure I'm skipping over a lot of critical things. I'm not going to do that because this just came from the shop. It actually worked the day before I haven't shot on it, but in LA, I had it on a shoot before it came back to me. So anyway, I trust the camera's good. I've got this. I'm going to be on the road. Worst case scenario, we could shoot single cam and I get through it. So anyway, that's the kind of the mental checklist I do. Ground up, back to front, make sure I got all the pieces I need, and if I haven't gone through the case and actually put it all together. Same with the FX9, and I've got my card readers out, made sure I have those. We're going to run zoom lenses on both. I have a 50mm prime in the case. There's my 2 quad chargers. That'll be all I need. I've got the bulk of my batteries and my tool chest already loaded on the truck. This is my Pocket 6K Blackmagic cam on the gimbal. Bringing that, might use it for a couple shots, maybe not. And again, it's a good backup. I've had success matching that with the Amira and the FX9. So if I need to, I'm covered, since I won't be close to home and I don't really have any contacts in that part of the country. A little bit of additional reflector grip items, a couple extra stingers, a poncho in case I get rained on, 6x1/2 grid, and a small green screen. Just bringing those just in case. I don't think I'll need them. Then I get a little rock and roller cart, got my mini jib, and I had some requests to do a video on building that, and I'll cover that in the future. But you can see my mini jib here is 4 cases plus the weights, and I've burned myself a few times where I load the 4 cases, get to set and realize I forgot the weights because they're loose, and that's kind of a danger thing for me. So I do the same thing with the jib. I start at the bottom. Do I have the rolling dolly? Yes. Do I have the pedestal? Yes. Do I have the low mode option? Yes. Do I have the arm? Yes. And do I have the weights starting at the back? Yes, I got the weights. Do I have the ball adapter for a smaller fluid head? Yes, it's in the red bag. And then work my way up. I got my fluid head, and then we're back to camera stuff. Plates, camera body, batteries, lens, media. You get the idea. So the truck is still in construction mode, so I got to unload my tools to get my video gear in there. The Geminis just live on board, so I've got 2 Geminis in wooden boxes with rolling baby stands. I've also got 2 C-stands complete back there. A couple sandbags, and then I have some additional on the floor. And then moving on to the side door, this just lives in the truck, but I got my set box, which has got my audio package, batteries, gold mount for everything, kit stands, interview LED lights, tools, and then I've got my small monitors, transmitters, headphones and stuff up top.